Hello, everybody. Oh, I look tired. All right. We got this. All right. Hello, everyone. It's your girl, Gabrielle. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. If you are unfamiliar with this program, let me tell you what this program is about. So, this is the show where we like to have that real talk about real things. We tend to focus on topics in entrepreneurship, education, empowerment. We've done episodes on homeschooling. We've done episodes on resiliency. We've done plenty of episodes about disabilities, right? So this is an educational show in a way, and today is no different. Today I am bringing back a topic, actually. So I actually have a repeat topic today. I love it when I have the repeat topics because we like to look at multiple perspectives for one thing. So we actually are bringing back a topic today, and let me tell you what that topic is. The topic today that we're bringing back is, what is a podcast? I am on an never ending search to figure out, to delve deep into what is podcasting, what is it, how does it work. This is part 5, right? So there's been 4 people before, but we are continuing this conversation about what is a podcast. So check out parts 1 through 4. Check out our archives, it is there. So today I have, so let me silence my phone. I have a brave soul who has come to the hot seat. He's a new guest to the show, and he is going to tackle this topic for you guys. So, what is a podcast? We are going to talk about that today. And let me tell you, my guest, his name is Kris Smith. And let me tell you, he is he comes from the world famous Kris and Kristine show, who has decided to use his podcasting expertise to create another podcast called Podtastic Audio, designed to help podcasters create a better sounding show. Fabulous. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring him to the stage.
Hey, what's happening, Gabrielle?
Oh,
Hey, thank you so much for having me here today. I appreciate this opportunity to be on your show.
thank you. Thank you for coming on my show. This is awesome. All right, so you are going to help us tackle this quest of exploration. What is a podcast? So I want to hear from you. So let's
Well,
let's start.
oh, okay. If you want to know
What is it?
what
What
a
is it?
what a podcast really is, I mean, it's not really a hard thing to figure out. But I would say, I mean, by definition, like pure like definition of the word, what is a podcast? It's actually requires an RSS feed to be streamed and then sent to a device, and you can hear it there, play it there. YouTube really, I mean, people say their podcast will put it on YouTube and they'll say, "Oh, it's my podcast," but really, it's not. It's actually a YouTube channel, really just a YouTuber, really with a thing. But foremost, podcasting, the like I said, the pure definition has to be an RSS feed. So that's by pure definition. But truthfully, your podcast could be anything. It could be an Instagram reel. That could be a podcast. You could have like anything really, that anything where you can make content, deliver it to somebody else. Someone else can consume it on their own time. That's a podcast.
What is a RSS feed for those who don't know?
Well, it's a little technical stuff, but RSS feed's been around for like forever. But basically, an RSS feed in the form of podcasting goes is that what it does is it takes your, like, say your podcast, you put it onto a hosting server, like whatever your media host could possibly be. And they will create what's called an RSS feed. Now, the RSS feed, basically what it does is like a code of information that will send and stream over like your information, like your audio and your artwork and your show description, things like that. It'll send it over automatically to a aggregator app or a podcatcher app, you want to call it, a place to actually like receive that, do something with it, and then it automatically update on your device, like say your iPhone, like Apple Podcasts. It'll update automatically through the RSS feed. Think of it as like the I guess, the stream or the code behind the scenes stuff that really gets your podcast from point A to point B and seamlessly, really. I mean, RSS feed's been around for a while. In fact, I think originally they were used for blog posts. Like if you're writing a blog post and you were
Yeah.
like receiving a blog post, it would update automatically with the new blog post someone wrote without having to go fetch it or whatever. That's kind of what it did. And eventually it turned into audio and they could send audio files and things like that. So that's kind of where it got started. But in order to do a true podcast, you need an RSS feed. Otherwise, it's just like, I mean, I guess you could send an email and have a small attachment file to it to somebody. I guess you could do it that way. But even with that, I think like Gmail, I think the max is like 25 megabytes you can send in one email. So for as far as an audio file goes, that's probably looking at maybe 10 minutes max at the most of audio. You could probably send in one email, but that's it. That's a whole email right there. So
now, how many? I guess this is more technical stuff, but how many? Um, I guess. Well, how do I ask this simply? Okay, so a hosting server is where you put the
you're
actual file, the
correct.
audio
Like,
file of the show.
yeah, that's right. So wherever your audio, I mean, people do this by themselves. I've seen this happen where they'll have their own server, like at home, their own thing. That's just crazy nuts there, but I wouldn't do that. But all it is, think of it as like a storage locker. And when you have, say, you subscribe to Spotify or whatever, all Spotify does is it tells through the RSS feed, it says, hey, it goes to your storage locker to get the file it needs, and then it just streams right back to you. It's pretty simple. It makes it super easy. So all you have to do really, if you have a podcast, you don't have to put your podcast at Spotify, Apple, all that junk. All you have to do is put it into your storage locker, your media host, and they go get it for you.
So now the media host, they connect to multiple podcasting platforms.
Yeah,
right?
through the RSS feed, it's like, think of it as a key to your locker, right? So you have a locker, it's got all your goodies, all your media files are in the locker, right? So basically you're giving Spotify a copy of the key, you're giving Apple a copy of the key, you're getting all these other places a copy of the key. So when a new show is up, they go get it, pull to your listener, whoever's listening to whatever device there is, and there's so many. Like there's like so many like places to listen to a podcast. Like personally for me, since I have an iPhone, I have a MacBook and all that, I really listen on two places, like Apple and Spotify. I mean, I have Google, I listen there, just whatever, see if it works. I have an iHeartRadio, I just listen there to see if it works. But mainly I go either Apple or Spotify. And if I can't find it on Apple, I'll go to Spotify. Usually it's there if you're looking for a show.
So those are the two most popular ones, I think, right? Apple
Yeah, I
and
think,
Spotify.
yeah, Apple's number one, Spotify's number two. Some people say it's the other way around. Some people say Spotify's number one and Apple's number two. Either way, I think Apple's pretty popular, at least here in America. Spotify might be more popular in other countries. So, but there are so many, like, there's so many different podcast players out there. In fact, actually, if you know this or not, but if your show is going to be only in one place, like I'm only going to put it in one place only, do it in Apple, because not only is it in Apple, there's about 100 or so other smaller like app players that pull from Apple's back catalog. So even though you're an Apple, you may be in a bunch of other players you didn't even know about just because you're an Apple.
I think Good Pods is one of them, right?
Yeah, I think they pull. Yeah, I think they pull from Apple. I think because I did notice that. Yeah, yeah.
So why is podcast? Do you think podcasting is popular?
Yes, it is. There's a trend going up in the world of podcasting, and the sad thing is that the advertisers or people who want to make money off it and cash off it are really seeing this as an opportunity, because some shows will just litter their show with ads. Like just put so many ads, ad in the front, ad in the middle, ad after every word, ad, and you're just like, oh gosh, it's too much. Just like radio, radio was funny because radio, before advertising just took off, radio was like music and stuff and all that, and maybe a few commercials, but now it's like commercials all the time. And I think the thing about podcasting is that when it comes to ads, is that different with radio, is that with ads at a podcast, you have a skip button on your phone. Like you can skip over every ad they put in front of you. Skip, get to the content. Like that's what you do. If you open a podcast and it's just like the first thing you hit you with is an ad, dude, I just like skip that or whatever, And If I keep skipping and they don't really get to the show, I'm just like, all right, whatever, I'm done. But it's become so popular that advertisers are really taking notice, and they're really sinking a lot of money into podcast advertising. There's a lot of money to be made in podcasting. It's pretty popular, but I look at podcasting kind of like the way that, like, do you remember when TVs went from like you had to sit home at a certain time to watch your favorite show to the DVR came out and you can just tape whatever you want,
Yes.
and then like you don't have to sit there 8 o'clock on a Sunday or whatever to watch your show. You can watch it whenever you wanted to.
Mhm.
I kind of view podcasting like the same way. Like I can go and I can listen to whatever show I want when I have the time to do it, and not have to be I used to be a big like morning radio fan. I listen to morning radio all the time, but of course that's like 6 to 10 every morning. I mean, unless if you're not there in the car, driving or whatever during that time, you might miss the show or whatever and all that. But since podcasting came out, I mean, I can listen to the show whenever I wanted to. It's great. It's content on demand. That's what I love. I think that's why YouTube is so great too. It's content on demand too. Like you think about it, like Netflix, Amazon. You can rent a movie from your television these days anytime you want. Watch shows anytime you want. It's great. That's what I love about it.
Absolutely. I think it's that on-demand culture. As you got me thinking about the 90s now, right? So back in the day, if I wanted to hear my favorite song on the radio, I would have to wait until the song comes on the radio and try to record it with my cassette player. But then MP3s came out, and then I could just download my favorite song, right? So I don't have to wait for the song to come on the radio anymore. And now it's evolved to iPods, and now you can put the music on your phone, and now it's on YouTube, and now we have like Pandora and all those streaming services. So the more that we crave the on demand, right, the more that we tend to that we get, and that brings us to podcasting.
Right.
If you wanted to hear a show, you had to wait until it comes on at that time. And now with podcasting, everything is on demand. I could get it whenever I want, however I want.
And anywhere you are too. Anywhere, like, I mean, my shows have been played in almost like every country like on earth except for China. China seems to block all podcasting. So if your show is not in China, don't feel bad. China just let anybody into their country for as far as their podcast goes. So don't worry about that. But we're like in like all the countries that are border like China. We're there except for China. But it's kind of surreal thinking that like somebody in Australia is listening to my show. Or England. I've never been to either of those countries, but yet my voice has, which is kind of a trip to think about. Think about it like that.
Right. And then that also brings another point that there's more exposure worldwide. And I think because of the internet, because of how easy it is to connect with, though the internet, that's one, social media, it's two, it's easy to spread content worldwide.
Right. In fact, it's funny you say that. I actually got started with, I like to call it podcasting, but it wasn't really, but a long time ago, like back in like 96, 97, I would make little mixtapes like this, not with video, of course, but like on a cassette tape and make copies of that cassette tape and pass it out to my friends or whatever. Check out my show, and all that. So I did that a long time ago, and that's how I did it. But of course, those tapes did get further than my little circle, didn't get very far. But with here, like if I had this back then, holy crap, wow, that'd be amazing. I wish I did. My goodness, I came so far. And actually I took a long break between then till now. I'm doing podcasting. I've only been doing like podcasting for like 3 or 4 years now. Not a ton, but I love audio. I love radio. I love all that kind of stuff. So I was in radio, in college radio back in college, back around that same time. I was doing those cassette tapes, passing those out. That sort of thing. So then I took a break and I kind of changed career paths and, here I'm back at it, I guess.
Yeah. So I just want to shout out. We have a random comment. Someone wished us hello.
Okay, perfect.
Hello back, Facebook user. All right. So now the we train my what? I lost my thought. All right. So now, do you think that podcasting is replacing radio? Do you think
No,
it's
no, I
replacing the old one?
no, no, not at all. I can tell you why. Actually, I did talk to a radiologist recently on my show. It's actually term is called radiologist. He's a special. His specialty is radio because he's been in radio and he's got podcasting, all kinds of stuff. Anyways, point being, I asked him the same question. He says, no, radio is still very, very strong around the world. If you think about radio, the thing about radio is that it's super easy. Like, you don't have to think about it. You just get in your car and you turn it on, and every car has got a basic radio. If anything else, they got a radio in the car, like a basics thing, and we all know how to use it. We just turn the button on, and that's it. Tune it to whatever you want to listen to. Boom, done, easy. So I'm not thinking it's going away. It's been around for so long. People say, radio's dead, or everyone's like in podcasting and Spotify and Pandora and all that junk or whatever. Maybe so, but at the end of the day, it turns out more people have listened to actual like radio in the week than they have any of those other things. Like the numbers show that radio is still very, very strong, at least globally anyways. I mean, it's starting to slip down, but it's still very powerful. It still outtakes everything else. So I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. It may evolve into more of a online radio. It's still the same concept, but more of an online form. But I mean, the regular broadcast towers and different things like that, it's always popular too. And also I think like it depends on what market you live in, really. If you live in a really like, middle of nowhere town where you have like one station, it's country or gospel or something like that. And you're like, I don't even like that music. So what do you do? You could listen to satellite radio, and satellite radio is big too. But, I'm not a huge fan of satellite radio. I think the reason is because it costs too much money. I think it's a ripoff, really. I mean, unless I was an over-the-road truck driver, then I probably would have to need to get it because, you're going everywhere and stuff. But my dad's got the satellite radio, and I'm telling him, like, it's so expensive. I don't know why you keep wasting money on that. There's so many other things now. You got all kinds of other choices, I think it's like almost $30 a month for radio, for satellite radio. So I think it's kind of pricey if you ask me.
Right. And then to that point, radio is still free.
Right.
So,
and it still sounds really good. Like I don't know, my other car had one of those like called HD radio signals or something like that where it can pull in the HD radio signal. And I don't know if there's a big difference with that, really, to tell you the truth. It sounded good. I don't know. Radio still sounds really good. If you have a good receiver, like in the car or whatever, and you listen to regular radio, it still sounds good. I mean, as long as you have a clear signal, it's not staticky or anything, but it still sounds pretty good.
right. So, I mean, yeah, because all you have to do is press the radio button in your car, and there it is, right?
Right.
So,
It's not much. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how to do. But I mean, tell you, you try to tell somebody that's like 80 years old, listen to my podcast. Like, what's a podcast? what's an iPhone? I don't even know what that is. You tell them you show them to turn on the radio. Well, they can figure that out.
so then that's a generational thing. So
I
then
think so too. I think, yeah. I mean, most of the podcast, I know on one of the apps I had, one of the hosts I was using did tell me the breakdown of ages. And it seems like the ages that seem to listen to the show were somewhere around like, I think 25 to 45-ish range, maybe, So that seemed like the majority of people that were listening. There were some at all the ranges, but it seemed like that was the majority listening to that spot. So podcasting, I mean, anybody can listen to a podcast, whether it's kids, adults, male, female, doesn't matter. Anybody can consume a podcast. There's a podcast out there for every single person, no matter what you're into. Like you could be into, like I always bring up the analogy, like earthworm breeding, I don't know, or something like that. If you're into that, there's probably a show for you for that, if that's what you want to do. Podcasting, I guess you got to think of podcasting more like, it's almost like cable television. Remember when they had like the weather channel and they had like the sports channel and they had like the news channel and they had the whatever channel? It's kind of like that. Like you got to like really, you can fine tune whatever you're into, the sci-fi or whatever it is. You can really dive into that one little like column, and then you can even get even deeper. There are shows that are like movie review shows, but then there's ones that are like horror movie review shows. And then there's ones that are like movie horror Stephen King based books movie review shows. It goes even deeper than that. And then it goes ones that, now we're doing TV shows.
It's more of a niche. It keeps getting
Yeah, I mean, the
Niche
more
year
neat
and niche year, if that's a word.
the problem people see about going too niche is that they figure that their audience size isn't going to be really big. But the ones that do listen, they really want to be there, because I mean, the Earthworm Breeding Podcast people, they really want to know about that. That's what they're going for. I mean, the general public isn't, but the guys that want to know, they'll be there.
Right. So you'll always find that the small group of people that like that very small thing that you are
Oh, I know,
podcasting
totally.
about.
I know. It's there's groups about if you go on Facebook, I know you're on Facebook, you see all the different groups of different things and stuff. All those obscure groups. There people are in there. People that like it. That's their thing.
Of course, of course. So now, oh, and then the newer cars too.
Yeah.
They have Spotify programmed into it,
Really?
so it's like the what is it? I know for Kias, it's like Android Auto or something. It's an
Okay.
app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have the. I have. Well, I guess mine can do both, but I have an Apple, so it's Apple CarPlay. But I think it goes Android Audio. If I had an Android device, it'd be the same thing on the screen or whatever. So basically, all the apps that are on my phone, not all of them, but all the like audio ones, like pull up on the screen. So my Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, and all that stuff, it's right on the screen. I can just pick and choose which one I want. It makes it super easy. I love Apple CarPlay. The only thing I don't like about it is that with mine, I got to plug it in. And if the plug isn't very good or the cord's kind of, or whatever, because my wife's car had that problem with hers that
Mhm.
the USB jack stopped working, but she had a USB-C jack. So we had to like get the adapter to like convert over to the other jack, just like so she can work hers. I think some of the ones in the future, like coming out soon, have this like automatic Apple CarPlay or whatever, where you just put the phone down like on a surface or something, and it automatically connects through like something Bluetooth or something. Um, yeah, I think the new ones are having that stuff, like new Beamers and stuff have that. So I don't have anything like that, but it'd be kind of fun though, because like the cord always seems to like sometimes it disconnects itself too. Like I have it plugged in, and then I'm like
Yeah.
driving around talking to somebody on the phone, and like it just disappears, and it goes to like the regular like normal screen, and I'm like, what happened? And then I call them back, and what happened? I said, I don't know, my phone, I don't know. You know?
Oh my God. Yeah. So it's the newer. I feel like the newer technology is embracing podcasting because, like I was saying, it's embedded in the new cars now, and it's on the phones, it's and I think even some TV shows are adapting to the podcast model. Like they have it as a second to the show. So like the Daily Show, for example, they have a podcast.
Oh, you're
Steve
saying they make
Colbert
their own? Yeah, yeah.
have a podcast now.
Yeah, it's really easy. I remember when radio stations started doing this years ago. They'd have like their morning recap of their morning show as a podcast, and that's how I kind of got fell in love with podcasting. Was I love morning radio, and then I found out like I couldn't because I switched positions at work or changed jobs, so I was now working nights, now working mornings. So I was like, oh man, I miss all my good morning shows. And then I found podcasting, and I was flipping through it. I was like, wait a second, my morning show I used to listen to in LA has a podcast. I can listen to anything I want. This is great. And I can listen to it while I'm at work at night, And then of course, I just discovered the TMZ has a podcast. I listen to their podcast. They do it like I think they do it every day or every other day. They do a podcast, and it's all the daily TMZ gossip and news. If you're into that kind of thing, and stuff like that. So I listen to that every once in a while, not all the time. And I just found out one of my local news stations here, they do a podcast. It's only like maybe 7 minutes long, maybe at the most. It's very short, very, very short. It's just basically like they'll tell you the daily news. Like, hey, today this is happening. Here's the weather. Have a good week and see you tomorrow. That's how quick it is. It's very quick. And I like doing that too, listening to that too. It's kind of a neat little thing too. So, I mean, I love podcasting. I think it's great. Unfortunately, I think what happened with podcasting, because I don't know if you know this, but back in 2020 when we had the pandemic, a lot of people were bored and they were home doing nothing. So they said, let's all start a podcast,
Yeah,
and
I
they're
noticed
like,
that
hey,
too.
do you know how to do a podcast? I don't know how to do a podcast. Well, how hard can it be? I mean, I got my iPhone or my iPad or whatever, just talking to it and record and hit go and we'll just do it. And that's what they did, you know. But then they realized, like, you know, it's difficult to keep it going. It's difficult to make it sound good. It's very disappointing if you create like your first 3 episodes and you get like 3 downloads, and you know, mom listened to it, and that's bad, you know, and you're like, I don't know why no one's listening to my show. I can't figure it out. And then you quit. I think what is it, like 7 or 10 episodes? If you can get past 7 or 10 episodes, you did really well, because most people drop off by 7 or 10, just because it's like, it's hard. It's not easy, you know. As you know, it's not easy to set all this stuff up. And you know, people are like, they want the easy button, you know, and they're like, why I'm not making any money off this thing? I've been doing it for 5 episodes. I should be rich, you know. It doesn't happen that way. In fact, most people say if you want to make any kind of money podcasting, it takes at least 3 years to see anything really happen. 3 years of consistency too. Okay, be like 1 episode every year. I'm talking like 3 years of physically podcasting, so that you can build an audience and build a crowd. And it all takes an audience, really, no matter what people say. You know, if no one's listening, no one's buying. It's like if you have a store. If no one's going in the store, no one's buying anything. You know.
Right, right. And you bring up an interesting point about, you know, how easy it is to create a podcast because of, again, the technology, right? So all you have to do is, you know, hit record on your phone and boom, you have a podcast. Even through certain host platforms, you can record directly through there. Like I know Spreaker does it. I know, what's this one? It's on the tip of my tongue. It's not
Anchor?
coming out. Yes, Anchor. Anchor is another one that
Anchor. Listen, I was on Anchor. I just switched from Anchor to Libsyn, and I was on Anchor for a while now. I have no problems with Anchor at all. Like they're great. They're free, which is great. The only problem is that like people get kind of worried because it's free. They're like, it's free. I mean, how are they making money? Like, because there's been a lot of hosts that have come and gone. You know, they've come. There's a lot of technology, a lot of technical companies that come and go. So Anchor, I mean, if you're going to do a podcast and just for funsies and kind of get it going, get it launched, Anchor is fine. I wouldn't record all through their player thing. I would just like use them as a host. You know, record everything like you normally would, but then just put the MP3 file there and distribute it there, that kind of thing. It's an easy way to get it done and get started. But if you're going to go corporate with your podcast, like be serious about your podcast, like say you wanted to make some serious money with your podcast, if you were a corporation or something, I would go with more of a company that's been around a while, like Libsyn. Libsyn has been around 18 years, and they actually do charge the podcast there. So it's not free. But I think their minimum plan is only $5 a month to host with Libsyn. Now, $5 only gets you like 3 hours a month of podcasting, you know. But at least you're, you know, I mean, if you do 2 shows a month, that should cover it, you know.
right. It's a start. It's a stepping stone.
Right. I mean, but the ease of podcast. Now going back to the whole pandemic podcast, it was kind of the reason why I started this show in the first place. Was because a lot of them came out and a lot of them were horrible. I mean, it's horrible, you know. So I think horrible sounding and just horrible altogether. So I created this show to kind of help those shows out because people were asking me questions when I was on the Kris and Kristine show. In fact, I still am on the Kris and Kristine show, but they'd write me on social media and they say, how do you do this? How do you make your audio sound so great? What are you doing? How do you make your guests sound amazing? How come it sounds like you guys are all in the same room? Like, how does it sound so good all the time? And first thing I say, well, it's because we fly everybody into the studio. That's how we do it. But no, I'm just kidding. We don't spend that much money on plane tickets. But no, I mean, so I said, you know what? Let me just try to figure out a way to help everybody that's asking these questions. So I designed Podtastic Audio just as like a side project podcast to help out people that had all these questions. I said, well, here, I'll make a podcast kind of explaining what I do here on this show, kind of like a behind the scenes stuff, you know. And I was only going to do it in my spare time if I had, you know, a few minutes here and there, like not put a ton of thought into the podcast, just kind of throw it up, say my thing, send it out to Anchor, and then let them have it, and it's all good to go. But people seem to like it, and it started growing, and people like it, and then I had like bigger names on the show in the podcasting space, reach out, talk to me. I've had people give me stuff, podcasting wise because of this podcast, which is kind of nuts, that I'm actually getting stuff from doing something that was like a side project to the main show. So, but I'm having fun doing it. In fact, I'm launching a few other things too, with Podtastic Audio. It's like, I love helping people, I just do. So if anybody has any questions or comments or concerns, I always try to help them out. In fact, because of that, I started trying to do some coaching on the side to help people out, because I don't have a ton of time to do any kind of extra stuff. I'm pretty booked with both shows and working, 12 hours a day and everything else. So I say, well, if I have some free time, I can schedule something for a certain person, and you have to put a charge to it, only because like I don't have a ton of time, So if you put money associated with anything, people take it seriously. There's more of a seriousness to it. If there's a money value put in place, I think it's why so many people that were on Anchor when they started out, they just went on Anchor and just like, whatever, it's Anchor, who cares? But if they actually had to pay for their hosting, I don't know if they quit quite as easily, because they're paying for it. It's like anything. I remember I bought a couple motorcycles. I bought a couple ATV bikes, and I was going to the desert like every weekend I had a chance. Like, I spent money on those. I'm using them,
Yeah.
They're not sitting in my garage all week, year long. I'm actually gonna use those things. Anything like that, if I bought a boat, the same thing. Anything that I spend money on, I have to use in some way. It's just me,
So you're saying to be wary of the free platforms?
Yeah, I mean, I think Anchor is fine, but there's been history has said that there's been, I don't know the names of these one hosting companies, but I do know there are some that have been free that have closed shop. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So just be careful. I mean, I'm sure Anchor is probably fine. Eventually, they're probably gonna have to start charging because they were losing money, I think. And what's a funny thing about Anchor is that when you get on Anchor, they try to sell you on their advertisements. They said, hey, advertise with us on Anchor. We'll start paying you some cash or whatever. It's not very much. It's like pennies. But it was funny. The advertisement ad they give you is for Anchor. So let me get this straight. Let me get this straight. You're going to have me advertise your free product, and you're going to pay me? How's that work? I mean, where's the money coming from? I mean, I'm selling free stuff, and you're gonna pay me with what? Free money? I don't get it. Was it monopoly money? I mean, what do you guys? So that's the thing. I don't know. I never really understood. But so I think maybe Anchor, or they're trying to do with Anchor, is they're trying to get as many people on the platform as possible to use their platform to show, like, I mean, even though half the shows are dead, but trying to show like potential buyers. Like, hey, we've got 4 million people on this platform. Check this out. Just like Facebook does, and Twitter and all the other ones, The sad part about social media, I don't know if anyone knows this or not, but with social media, we are the product being sold. It's not any service.
Tell us more about that.
So with all social media is just like this. So the value of social media is basically, like if you are a advertiser, right, and you're paying to get on, say you're going to do a commercial for the Super Bowl, right? Mm-hmm. You will know the Super Bowl commercials are like, gosh, what is it, like $5 million every 30 seconds or something like that, or whatever, ridiculous amount of money. The reason why it is because you're paying for the eyeballs that are watching the Super Bowl. They're paying to get in front of the Super Bowl, right? If it's a commercial, if it's a commercial for some town in like middle of nowhere that's got like one channel or whatever, I'm sure it's a lot cheaper to get in front of that commercial. So you're basically, the wealth of the social media is based on the number of people that are on it, because it's all about advertising. It's all about that, Google and YouTube is big with ads, right? They got ads in front of every video. You push play on a video, there's always kinds of ads and all that stuff. It's all because millions of people watch YouTube. It's all about the eyeballs and all about the ears and the people. So social media is the same thing too. You're basically, its value is all the people that are there that you can sell to. So if you're selling, selling whatever, cars or whatever, right? And Facebook's like, hey, I got like 8 billion people on my platform. You want to advertise over here because you can get in front of all 8 billion of them? Sure, why not? So that's kind of what it is,
right. And then with so it's you so that's an interesting you got me thinking now.
Well, that's what I
Right.
do.
So it's like with social media, right? The more people you get on the platform, so it's so they promote that it's free to get on, right?
Right,
And
because the wealth is in the people itself. Because I mean, you could raise your stakes, like raise your ad rates to somebody like a Coke, right? You can raise your ad rates to Coke, saying, "Coke, I've got like a billion people on this platform. You want to advertise here? It's going to cost you. You know, it's going to cost you something because I got 8 billion." They may even break it down per person, like it's such and such dollar value per person on the platform to advertise here. I mean, an 8 billion is a big number, so do the math. you know,
right, right. So if there is no product, then you are the product. Remember that.
that's right.
So now you bring up another interesting point, which is living off of podcasting, living off of this industry, right? So can you live off of podcasting? Can you work full time? Can you get paid full time? Can you make an honest living doing something like this?
Well, when it comes to podcasting and actually making money, like real money off podcasting, wise man almost once said he said that you don't make money with your podcast, you make money from your podcast. So, in other words, like just by us creating this show right now, like we're not making money to do this, like to do this thing here. But if you have something you're selling and you're using your podcast to sell said item, then yeah, you're making money with your podcast.
Like my
You-
tutoring services?
Exactly, like your tutoring services, just like that. So you make money with that, but the podcast is like, I mean, you're using your podcast to promote that. So that's kind of the one easy way to make money with a show is to have something that you can physically sell to somebody, use the podcast itself to promote that said item, and then you kind of filter them over there. Like you funnel them in through the free podcast, which they're listening to for free, of course. They hear it, they like it. Oh, great! And you're like, hey, if you like this, check out my other thing. It's right over here, And not everybody's going to make it from one to the other. I think the conversion rate's maybe 3%. So I think it's like 3% of all of your listeners will actually do anything more than just, and that probably goes to like writing you emails and that kind of thing too. So yeah, I think the rule is about 3%, but they say it could be more. It depends.
Right. And I think I remember talking to someone else about this. Like, you know, don't use your podcast as a way to make money. Use it as a vehicle for something else, right? So
Yeah.
use it as a vehicle to promote your business or other people that I spoke to, they do coaching services, for example, like
Yeah,
you do,
that's popular
or
coaching. Yeah.
yeah, and or they're a producer where they host other people's podcasts and people charge them to put it together. So it's using the podcast as a means to promote something else and not
Yeah.
really to make money off of it.
Right. I mean, there are people that do have ads on their show and they make some money off their ads and things of that sort. That is possible. I mean, but the amount of money you're going to make isn't as much as you would hope it would be, unless you have like, I mean, a lot of downloads. I mean, I'm talking like, I mean, for an advertiser to even look at you, you need to be making like 10,000 per episode, download wise, maybe 5 to 10, five on the low end. That's per episode. That's not total. That's like per episode. You need to pull those numbers in, and then advertiser might work with you. And then even then, when it's all said and done, you might make a mere $20 or even $100. I don't know about $100 a month. Ain't enough to quit my job. So I mean, look at it from that aspect. But they say, well, Joe Rogan, he makes all his money. Yeah, but he's been doing the business for a long time. He's been a celebrity before he got into podcasting, so it wasn't like overnight success. It takes time to build these things. So if your heart is really set on making money with your podcast, I would say have something else you can sell with the podcast to kind of work together. Or you can start like a Patreon page. We did that, and it's not been very successful. I can tell you that right now. I mean, you can put stuff on Patreon. You even can do like a paywall thing, like hidden content or special things and things like that. Now, I think my funny thing is I mentioned this earlier. I said I think Patreon is just like another version, a an easier version of like a of a OnlyFans is what it is. You know, it's a gateway drug to OnlyFans is what it is. So you know, but and you can try that too. And I mean, some shows are very successful with their Patreon. They make, you know, but they also, I guarantee you, the ones that are successful have a huge audience to go with it.
Right, 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 right. So now, do you think do you think anybody should make a podcast? Because you mentioned with the pandemic, people are home, maybe laid off from their jobs, and the technology is there, right? Zoom is there. Um, the platforms are there. Anyone can make a podcast, and the number of podcasts actually exploded,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So, do you think that anyone should make a podcast?
Um,
Anyone can make a podcast, but
that's
should they make it?
yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. When it comes to making a podcast, if anybody can make a podcast, anybody can. Should they? Well, they have to think a few things first. You have to really have to like plan it out. Like when we started the Kristine show, we had no plan at all. We just like jumped in. The funny way it started is that my son had an Xbox or whatever, and he had one of those like headphone sets you can like talk to your friends on the microphone and all that stuff. And I ordered it on Amazon, and it came in the mail. And I opened the thing up, and I'm looking at the packaging. I'm playing with it. I'm like, oh, there's a plug that plugs the thing to the computer. Check this out. So I plug it into my computer, and I like start talking to the thing, and I start recording on whatever the computer's got, and I'm also like, hey, I think I could do a podcast with this stupid thing and all that. I said, Kristine and I were dating at the time. I said, hey, do you want to do a podcast with me? And she's like, I don't know. Come on, it'll be fun. Come on, it'll be fun. Come on, let's do it. Let's play. Let's do this. And she's like, okay, what are we going to talk about? I said, I don't know. Let's just do this. Let's just figure it out. Let's do this. And so I ordered a couple of cheap microphones on Amazon. Like that, I went on Amazon and I looked up like cheapest microphones I could find, like the under $20 club, and I found two. Ordered. I said that way I figure I'm not into it for very much money. So if we try this and we don't like it, whatever. It's $40, $50, whatever. It's a price of a dinner. So we started playing with it, and then we started having fun doing it. And I knew nothing about nothing. When I got started, and I found a few editing softwares that were for free. I found a few things that were free, and figuring it out. And we did our first episode, and people seemed to like it. Our coworkers liked it. They seemed to like it. Thought it was great and stuff. We did another one. And then we did a few more and stuff. And eventually, I think after the 20th episode, we upgraded to our gear. And then we've been doing it pretty much ever since. And I found ways to do interviews. Because I didn't know how to do interviews either. I didn't know how to do that stuff either. Mm-hmm. So it was all new to me, like figuring all this stuff out from home. So as far as people actually that should do a podcast, I think first thing you got to think about is how are you going to do it? Like think of all the how and the why. And why are you doing a podcast? Like, why do you want to do a show? Like, just to do it? Because that's not going to last past maybe 5 episodes. You have to have a determination, and you have to have a plan. And it comes down to your why. Like, why are you doing it? Like, are you going to help other people? Do you want to be seen as an expert? Do you want to interview people that you normally would never, ever talk to in a million years? I know some people like to do that. They claim they don't, but they really do. Like, oh, I'm interviewing so-and-so this week, and all that. It's name droppers, And I'm like, well, you never would talk to them if you didn't have a podcast. So that could be the reason why they start a show too. But always know why you're doing it, and try to figure out like at least 10 episodes deep. At least when you're starting out, like what's your first 10 going to be about? Have those figured out. Write down stuff. Write down notes. They say probably write down at least 50 different topics you can talk about for your podcast when you're starting out, and it makes it easier too if you have something that you're really passionate about. If you have a passion for whatever it is, that's something you can talk about for hours. Do your show on that. If you're doing a show on something, like say, for example, I know like true crime is all the rage. Everybody loves true crime, right?
There's a lot of true crime, yeah.
Right. But if you don't care for that, don't start a podcast on true crime just because everybody else is doing it. If you hate doing it, you're going to hate doing it. It's going to show off. It's going to come off in your recording that you hate it. And you're like, I got to do a true crime podcast today. So-and-so killed so-and-so. Okay, the end. I mean, you're not going to have any fun doing it. And when it becomes not fun anymore and it becomes work, then you probably might have to think about, maybe this is not for me. Maybe I should stop doing this. This is not a fun thing. I think it's what happened with a lot of these pandemic shows. I think a lot of them realize, yeah, this is work and I'm not having fun doing this. And so it's done. I mean, that's kind of what happens. And it's a sad thing to see people pod fade, but it does happen. You have to really love doing this to keep it going, you know?
Right, because you got to get the equipment, so it's a financial investment. Then you have to record episodes, every, I mean, weekly or bi-weekly. You have to keep recording it. You have to make sure the sound is right. You have to make sure, everything is working together. There's editing that's involved. Like the more you get into podcasting, the more you have to do the administrative part to it.
Oh yeah, I think it's a formula. I think it's like, if podcasting was 100%, I think 20% would be actually like creating and making the episode, and like 80% is like promoting it and selling it and getting it out there, and promotions and that sort of thing. So I mean, I think promotions probably might include like designing like artwork and posts and all that kind of stuff, and sharing and networking and all that stuff. So only 20% of it is just recording. The rest of the hard work comes in. And also, too, I got to make one little thing on this. I just thought of this. Just because you have a podcast, just having a podcast by itself and nothing, it doesn't mean everyone's going to listen to it. It's not the whole, if I build it, they will come. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work that way,
So you're saying, like, so if you create a podcast, you won't automatically get listeners and an audience. It won't just come magically.
Oh, like no. No, even though there are podcast promoters that will say they can do that for you, no problem right out the gate. But no, I mean, you have to like get the word out. It's like, okay, imagine, I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, imagine, they're down the street from my house. There is a house on the corner where these kids will set up a lemonade stand every once in a while. Probably during the summer, they had a lemonade stand out there, and cars go by, whatever, and they see that and they honk and maybe give them a nickel or a dollar for whatever they're selling. But if you decide to put a lemonade stand like out in the middle of nowhere, it's even if it's the best lemonade best lemonade you ever had in your entire life, and you put it out in the middle of nowhere and nobody sees it. I mean, how is anyone going to even know it's even there?
Right.
I mean,
you can't create a lemonade stand, but no one knows about it. So then that brings up another part, which is marketing.
Right. Now, marketing, trust me, I'm still trying to figure this thing out myself. Marketing as far as a podcast goes, marketing a podcast, there's so many levels and so many different ways you can market a podcast. I always ask every guest I have on, I always try to ask them that same question too, try to pick their brain and what they think is the best way to market. And everybody's basically said community, like getting involved with different communities, whether it's social media, kind of like, building a community and interacting with that community. And that's kind of the way to, like, I guess, market your show. Every little thing helps, I say, like posting it on Facebook, posting on Instagram, posting it on Twitter. All that stuff helps, and then just interacting with different people, communicating, replying to messages or replying to comments or to posts and things like that. But don't be spammy. Like, don't spam. Like, don't reach out to every person you see and say, "Here's our podcast. Check it out. Here you go. I'm throwing it right at you. Here it is." People used to do that to me, and I would say, "Oh, thanks," or whatever. Or they'd say something like, "Hey, here's my podcast, and it's something I'm not into." And I'm like, "Well, what do I do with this?" You should probably ask first if you do that. I like to use like the audiograms. I don't know if you know. You've probably seen little audiograms where you
I use those too for Headliner. Yeah.
Yeah, Headliner makes some. There's another one I found. I think it's called Pod something or other on my phone. It makes one too. There's a couple. Now, a real easy way to make an audiogram, if you don't have any of those apps, an easy way to do it, at least on the iPhone, I can do a screen record. I swipe down, I can hit record the screen, which includes the player, which would be like whatever's playing on the thing. So you can do it that way too. Now you have a video on your phone, which is kind of like a audiogram. I've done that too, to share out on Instagram and social media, whatever. You can do that too. That works. They say video is big too. I'm not a big video guy, but I'm slowly starting to put some videos out, like Instagram reel type of stuff, like short video type of things, just kind of promote the show. Like, hey, this week we have so-and-so on the show coming up or whatever, or something. just to kind of promote the show. Every little thing helps. I can't say it's all one or the other. I say all of these things do help, and being consistent also helps too. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, there's so much more we could talk about, but we gotta be mindful of the time. All right, so let's start to wind things down. We may have to do a part two here. Um, Now let's wind things down.
okay,
So,
all right.
are there? Do you have any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience? Final words of wisdom.
I have tons of words with it. Are you kidding me? I have tons of good stuff, all kinds of nuggets. Um, I would say, trying to think where I could go with this, but words of wisdom, podcasting wise, is that just remember people are listening. Be respectful of their time. They gave their time to be with you today. Don't waste it. You know, don't screw around. You know, because they easily can, you know, skip and delete. There's 4 million other podcasts they can listen to. They chose to pick you for some reason. I don't know why, but they picked you. Picked you. So don't you know, screw them over. You know, be respectful of that. It's as if somebody come to your house, you know, and like. And you're like, hey, I got nothing to eat, and not cooking for you, or anything like that. Go buy us food, and you know, like, don't be a jerk, you know. like, like be cool about it, you know, be respectful. And also think, like, I thank every person that comes listening to my show. First thing I talk, first or both shows, the very first thing I say is thank you so much for being here, because I appreciate every listener that stops by. You know, that's just me though. I always try to be very respectful. Same thing, like when I go to the store and I'm the first one to the door, I open it up for the next person that comes in. I always hold the door for them. You know, that's what I do. So, and I mean, I always think that like people are listening and be respectful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for being on my show. I appreciate the time that you took to be here. All right, so let's do your promo.
Okay.
All right. So, you guys, Kris is all over the place, right? So, he has two podcasts. So, one of them is called Podtastic Audio. You can find it online, of course. It is podtasticaudio.com. The second one he has is called The Kris and Kristine Show. That's Kris and Kristine with a K. The website is www.krisandkristineshow.com. So those are two podcasts, and I encourage you to check both of them out. The Kris and Kristine Show also has an Instagram, a Twitter, and a Facebook. So the Instagram is the K2 Show San Diego, and Twitter and Facebook have the same handle, K2 Shows San Diego. So just be mindful. Instagram has the in it. So the K2 Show San Diego. That's Instagram. Twitter and Facebook are K2 Show San Diego. And Podtastic Audio, you can find that on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter is Podtastic A. Instagram is Podtastic Audio. And you also have a radio show. Tell us
Oh
about
yeah,
your radio show.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I have a radio show. It is on the Live 365 app. You look up live365.com and you just type in K2 Radio in the search field. It'll pull right up. The radio station started because another podcaster started his radio show. He's actually in Brooklyn, New York, also. And he asked me to be on his show and actually add stuff to his radio station, which is also on Live 365. He was telling me all about it. I was like, this sounds amazing. I can put music on. I can play whatever I want. This sounds great. It's like a real radio show. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. Great. So I started building a playlist and sending music over to him and different things and all that. And then, like maybe a month later, he's like, you know, I can't do this anymore. It's just, it costs too much money and it's, you know, it's whatever. I'm too busy. I'm like, okay, fine. So that's kind of sad because, like, oh man, all my stuff I created, all the music I created to put on his show is it's done. You know, it's gone. But I still had the copies on my computer, of course. And Kristine's like, well, you like doing it. Why don't you just do your own show? How hard can it be? I'm like, well, you're right. I guess I can do that. So I logged in, got my own account on Live 365, and I set up my own radio station called K2. Because my thing was also called K2 Radio on his channel, but I just took the K2 Radio and it's just R. Now it's the whole station's K2 Radio. So So I do that. It's on the Live 365 app, and I have music playing. I have top 10 countdown I just did. I've got sometimes I'll do guest spots on there. I'll do clips of the Kris and Kristine show on there. I'll do music that I make, that I create. It's all on there. It's all new music for the most part, and it's all on there playing live 365. It doesn't stop. It's going on 24/7. So it's on the Live 365 app. Now, if you want to create your own radio station, you can do that too. It's up to you. It's not cheap. I can tell you that much. It's not cheap to do that. So, because you guys got to pay for the licensing rights to play the music. That's kind of how it works.
Mhm.
But it's been fun. People are listening, and it's great. I like it. It's music I like, and it sounds good too. So, some of these radio stations that like do online radio stations that you can do. Either they have their own music that you have to choose their stuff, or this doesn't sound as good. This, I make the audio, I make the recordings myself, make the music myself. I make it sound really good using a program I have, and then I put all that up into the system. So now it's just kind of shuffling everything I have, which I have about, I think, 400 tracks on there right now. So it's just kind of shuffling all those, and then also I'll put like different things, like an interview or something. I'll put that in there certain times of the day, things like that. So it sounds live. It is live, but it sounds like I'm on the air live, but I'm really not. So it's kind of the magic of it all. It's called the auto DJ mode, is what they call it.
Awesome, awesome. And that radio station is online. So it's not like
Yeah.
an actual radio station that you turn the dial to.
No, yeah, you're correct, but there is an app for it. It's the Live 365 app, which works on Apple CarPlay and probably Android Auto too, I'm assuming. So when you plug your phone into your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto Play, the icon for the Live 365 app will be on there, and it works just like Spotify or any of those online player apps that you might have. Works just the same as that, but the audio is streaming live in real time with graphics and everything else. So it's not, there's no download button. There's no like, I'll listen to the show later kind of thing. It plays like radio where it's going live in real time, like a stream. It's just going.
Yeah. All right. All right. Awesome. So there you have it. So all of that information, everything that we just talked about, if you're watching this on video, it is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen. Where's my finger? Somewhere. Right there, somewhere. So the scrolling below at the bottom of your screen, if you happen to be watching this on video, if you are listening to this on audio, all of this information will be provided to you in the description. So however you are taking in this episode right now, this all of that contact information will be available at your fingertips. So there is no excuse. This information is available one way or another.
Fantastic. I love it.
Yes. All right, Kris, thank you so much for joining me today. I
Well,
appreciate
thank
making
you
the
for
time to
thank
be
you.
with me.
Well, thank you
You
so much for
up.
having me. Thank you so much.
All right, let me place you backstage now. And you guys, let me put up my banner as usual. All right, so you guys, we have reached the conclusion of yet another episode. I can't believe it's been so many episodes. We are in season 4 right now. I can't believe we're actually in season 4. It's so crazy. But we have reached the ending of yet another episode in season 4 of Hot Topics. Thank you so much for being with us, or being with me today. So I want to just remind you guys that Hot Topics is a production of our company, A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So as we were talking about using podcasting as a vehicle to promote a business, we are using Hot Topics to promote our tutoring services. So if you are looking for a tutor, whether for your child or for yourself, we do work with adults. If you have your child, for example, is maybe struggling, they're not doing their homework, they're falling behind, the teacher is on you all the time. My kid is not getting it. My kid is not getting it. Listen, we are here for you. Reach out to us. So if you are looking for a tutor for your child or for yourself, reach out to us. Our information is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen, but I will just say it here. Go to our website, www.astepahead tutoringservices.com. You can also email us success at a step ahead tutoringservices.com. You could also call us or text us if you are in the US or Canada. Our phone number is 347 762 2838. We are also on multiple social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, Eventbrite, and YouTube. So check us out on all of our social media platforms. Facebook and Instagram, the handles are A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. Twitter, the handle for Twitter changed actually. It is ASATS 2013. It is not Tutor ASATS anymore. So I want to point that out that the handle for Twitter is different. So Twitter is ASATS 2013. And I'm trying to think. YouTube and WhatsApp is just our name, A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So I encourage you to find us on social media and follow us on all social media. And my personal page, Gabrielle Crichlow, is also a professional page as well. Yes. So I encourage you to find us on social media. There are so many ways that you could reach out to us. There is no excuse. So if you are looking for a tutor, hit us up. I'll give you our website again. It is www.stepaheadtutoringservices.com. I will also share this final thing. Our podcast, Hot Topics, has a text blast. That's right. Hot Topics has a text blast. I encourage you to get on it. All you have to do is text the code Hot Topics to 917 764 3975. Again, text the code Hot Topics to 917 764 3975. You will get updates on our audio releases, our live episodes. Get on that text blast today. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to you joining us at the next episode. Thank you guys again. And now I am signing off. Bye.